Many years ago, I came across a few lines in a book that I connected with. They were, "It's easy to judge, but you never know another person's heart, what gives them strength and what breaks them down." I have learned to listen more and speak less. The result has been eye-opening conversations and inspirational moments that I have shared with you right here. Having some very interesting conversations today. We're just discussing what is a weed diffuser exactly. Well, we happen to be at M Maison at Quality Hill Boutique Mall. Welcome to Crystal One-on-One. I am Crystal, and today I'm with someone I've known for years. We worked together at some point.
Don't say how many years.
Just like the last 3 to 5 years.
2 months.
2 months. Ben Mwine, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you?
Great. Awesome. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Always.
I have to start off by saying the picture you posted the other day made me so happy. Made me so happy. He posted a picture with Rachel, his wife, and he was opening up her hair.
Are we talking about that?
We're talking about African hair in a weave or something. We have to talk about this. How many times do we see the men in our lives do that?
Well, I can tell you, it's the first and last time you'll see me do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Because you were complaining about the threads.
It was
an intricate process.
It was a horrific experience.
But horrific is like a big word.
We can be honest on the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrific.
Horrific.
Never doing that again.
So it was your first time?
Yeah, it was my first time and my last.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't unsee what I saw in my wife's head. So every time I look at her head now, I have these horror images in my head of all these threads that under her hair. And then because of how the hair is structured, it's like there are like 3 layers. So there's fake hair, and then there's threads, and then there's her hair, and then more threads. And it looks like someone just went and put a whole bunch of threads and cloths and hair together, threw them in mud, and then picked them up and put them on someone's head because of the oil and all. And because the thread is...
I think whoever did her hair, there was a problem there
to
begin with.
From what I've been told, apparently it's how it seems to get done. And so...
Because you first do the plates with the hair.
Yeah.
And then they use thread to kind of really keep it neat.
Exactly.
Well. Yeah,
well, it's not really neat, let's be honest.
Well,
to keep it intact, but it's not neat. I think the issue is that because most women never get to see what the head looks like, they have no problem with it. But for me because, I mean, when they do your hair, you don't get to see what they're doing up here, right?
Okay.
And then they'll cover it up, and so you look good on the outside, you look beautiful, and, we get excited. But having seen what goes on behind the scenes, I think I'm suffering from PTSD. I'm still traumatized by it, to be honest.
No, but it's interesting because men always ask, like, what are you doing for all those hours in a salon? A guy goes in 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 if he has a massage done. And a woman is like 5 hours.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think now you have a better
No,
understanding.
I totally get it, but I also think there's got to be someone who can come up with a better way of doing that makes it a bit more, I don't know, efficient and quicker. Because I'm never complaining again about how long my wife spends in the salon. Because, I mean, took us better part of just maybe 90 minutes just to get it undone.
Yeah.
And then you're not sure because you have to cut the thread.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, so I'm thinking...
Sometimes you have to really know what the thread is and what the hair, so you don't cut the hair. Wasn't she freaking out?
I think she was, just didn't admit it. She only said it afterwards. But she also knows I'm very meticulous, with most of my stuff. So I was able to find the threads eventually, but never doing that again.
Okay.
I'm never doing that again.
Well, we had Rachel on the show recently.
Yeah, I know. I loved the show. She was mad at me because I didn't watch it for about a week and a half before it came out. It came out, and she was pissed.
Why didn't you? Were you worried that?
No, because I needed it. Something like that is not something you rush over. So I needed to be able to find enough time and get my headphones. But yes, of course I did. I love the show, by the way. So it was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
too can get Chocha.
Top up every Monday and get 10 times bonus data bundle with Chocha Monday. Log on to www.smile.co.ug or visit any Smile outlet and top up now.
Smile. Now you can.
So Ben, Mwine, Ugandan, born and raised here.
Yeah.
Media personality, now the manager of Kwese.
Yeah.
Tell us your journey. I know there are so many stories, but where were you born?
Do you want to do... That's going to be like 4 episodes right here. Let's start from the beginning. So, I'm a villager.
You've
100%.
always proudly proclaimed
I am
that you're a
very,
villager.
very glad to be a villager. I should tell you a story about it before I go into my journey. So, one of the interesting things that you learn about being a villager is that you begin to get a different perspective on life and things. So, you've seen how you see many Ugandans who drive really posh cars throwing like maize cobs and stuff out of their cars, but actually found the solution. I know why they do that. So I used to
Because
get
they're
mad.
villagers?
Yes. Do you know why? When you're a villager, most of the things that you do in the village add to the flora and fauna. So if you
Exactly,
throw a
that's
banana
manure,
peel, it's
right?
manure. If you throw a maize cob, it's manure. And so it sort of stays in your head. So even when you're driving an ML, that kind of just doesn't go away, so you end up throwing things out without even thinking about it. So that's why.
But it's a problem when it's plastic bottles.
You see, again, because of the thinking, they never get to process that this is now plastic, it's going to harm the environment. It's
Yeah.
the villager attitude that sort of comes through. So yeah, anyway, villager, born in Imbara about 40 years ago. And then stayed in Imbara for the first maybe 8-9 years of my life. Never went to nursery school.
Oh,
Yes,
so
I was.
you went straight to P1.
Again, like I say, you're going to need 4 episodes. So I'm 3 years old. My big brother Kenneth has started school.
Okay.
My mom is working. My dad is not in the country. He was in India at the time. And I keep insisting that I want to go to school with Kenneth because he seemed like he was having fun. And he'd come back and tell all these stories about how school was fun and all of that. And I said, I want to go. And my mom says, you're not ready. And I threw such a fit and a tantrum. She said, you know what? I'm going to get this guy off my case. So she takes me to the headmaster at the school. It was called Boma Primary School. And says, this guy is stressing me so much. Can you just keep him here for 1 day? I'm sure by lunchtime he'll be tired and disgusted and he'll then come back home and
He
he can
won't
never
come home.
complain.
This is the 3.
Yeah, at 3. And so then I go in. And long story short, at the end of the year, I was top of the P1 class.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was 3 in P1.
Okay.
By the time I got to S1, I was 10 in S1.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know.
You sat
Yeah,
for PLE
Yeah.
at 10.
9.
9.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 10, I was in S1. So I turned 11 in 3rd term of S1. Yeah, I know.
baby.
I know. I miss my childhood. So,
Didn't they bully you? Or you
not-
had big brother to
Well,
protect you?
I went to Mbara High School eventually. So for my high school,
Yeah.
my first part of high school,
Is that a
and
boarding school?
yes, it's a boarding school. It's the best school in Mbara. Don't let the entire guys hear that; they'll kill you. But they'll be fine. So my big brother, I wanted to go to Budo incidentally for my high school. Thank
Okay.
God I never made it.
Okay.
Yeah. You know me. Can you imagine me being a Budo guy?
I think you'd literally be levitating.
Thank you
when
very
you
much.
Walk.
Yeah.
No offense to Budonians, but
No,
there's
but
something
they
about
get
that
it.
school.
So I'm glad I didn't go to Budo. So anyway, my big brother was already in the same school in S2, so he was a year ahead of me. And so I had protection. And again, because I'd grown up in Imbara, most of the guys in the school were people that I'd grown up with, the guys in S2, S3, S4. So I was
And
kind of
because
like...
he was so much little, I think he was
Yeah,
probably
so
protected.
I was like the darling of everybody. So I was like, so I sailed through school. I was very popular, so popular in fact that I ran for deputy head boy when I went back for my S5, unopposed, and lost the election. True story.
Unopposed.
Yeah.
Lost the election.
Yeah.
What did you do?
The school administrators would rather have expelled me than let me become deputy head boy, because I was like, I don't know if I can say this on this show, but I was like the original people power.
Oh, rules are bad for that age.
Yeah, popular with all the students, very unpopular with the administration.
The
because
administration.
I was always going
So
to
you
be
were
on.
trying to change.
I was always going to be on the side of the students.
Okay.
So they said that's not going to happen. So they
So would you say you're a handful?
and then some.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now you've talked about your older brother.
yeah,
How many siblings?
6 boys.
And 6 boys.
Yeah,
Oh, your mom.
yeah, 6 boys,
her.
and literally, apart from Ken, my big brother, all of them are Bens. So there's me, Benjamin, Bernard, Benson, Bennett, Benon. Yeah. My mom is Penina. My late dad was Ben Ruben. So we rhyme. So Ben and Pen got a Ken and a lot of Bens. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said your dad was in India?
he was in
came
India
back?
for the first part. Yeah, he was doing school in India, and then when he was coming back, he got caught up in. That's about the time when the war had hit, and then so he ends up getting stuck in Nairobi.
Okay.
When the war broke out, and so my mom, my big brother, and my little brother had to walk for 3 days during the war
Okay.
to go from Mbara to village, my dad's village in Intungamo. And that was also quite an yeah, we walked for 3 days.
Wow.
So every time I hear anybody talk about wanting to use violence or anything like that to change a system, I scoff at them because I know what it was like being in that madness. And I keep thinking there's got to be another way of doing whatever it is you want to do. We walked for 3 days. We had to eat calabashes. Have you ever eaten a calabash? Of course you haven't. I love the look on your face.
I'm like imagining, okay.
Have you ever tested chloroquine
Yes.
by accident?
Yes.
Okay. Multiply that by maybe 2 or 3 in terms of bitterness. That's how a calabash is. But you have no choice, because if you don't eat it, you're going to starve to death.
Yeah.
That was our situation. So we had to walk through, because Ntungamo from Mbara is about 84 kilometers. So you can imagine we walked for 3 days to a place along the road to Ntungamo. It's called Rampara. And then we eventually come across this family, and my mom just walks in and says, okay, here's the situation. I've got 3 boys. I'm heading to Ntungamo, but we're tired. My little brother was sick. And she's like, I don't know what to do. Can you guys give us some place to put our heads down for, a night or 2? Yeah. We eventually stayed there for, I think, if I'm not mistaken, must have been about 4 months in that family. And they became family. So Uncle Frank, I now, I call, he's now my Uncle Frank. His son, Haman, and the kids are basically my cousins. They because of that bond. Yeah, and there's a story there, of course, about African culture and our society and where it has come from. But yeah, it was quite an experience. So we then eventually end up in Ntungamo, where we spent a year. I skipped.
Where were your other siblings? Were they at school?
No, so we were with them. At the time, we were just 3. So it was just my big brother, me, and my the one who follows me, Bernard. And so we spent a year in Ntungamo. So I skipped a class, actually. So I skipped P3, if I'm not mistaken. And we had a blast. We used to go grazing cows and doing, I don't know what the English word for it is. Gogoro. What do they call it? You know the thing where you put the banana peels under your pants and slide down the hill?
Okay.
I just know the Nyankole word for it. I don't know the English name for that.
So you do that on the hills?
Yeah, and then go back with torn pants and get caned. But it was a lot of fun. Steal people's potatoes from the gardens when you're tending the goats. And it was fun. It was fun.
Good memories.
Yeah, and then we come back to Mbarara. And then in 1990, my dad had got a job in Kampala working with the cooperative movement. So he then moved us to Kampala. So 1990 is the first time I set foot in Kampala. And we're actually staying less than a kilometer away from where we are, just across the hill in Kabalagala. And I'll never forget that night, the beginning of 1990, coming in. I'd never seen bread being sold on the roadside or milk in packets,
Because of course you're used to the fresh milk.
Our milk was delivered straight from the
From
cows.
the cow,
And so you're thinking,
yes.
wait, they put milk in packs? Who does that? And then chicken on the roadside. You know, the TV chicken, thinking, oh, chicken's doing somersaults. I was a typical villager with all this smile of seeing buildings and seeing lights at night and all these things. I get emotional thinking about it. It was quite the experience. And then, remember I said I'd been top of my class when in Mbara. I was top of my class the entire time.
Yes.
I was either first or second.
Yeah.
There was a girl who incidentally shared a birthday with me. I think she's now in the US. She was called Diana Bonavana. Her mom was the MP in Mbara. People in Mbara will know her. So her daughter Diana was the only person who ever beat me in primary school.
Wow.
And when she did beat me, I'd go home crying because I'd be thinking, how can she beat me? And then I go to Nakasero for P7, and things are a bit different because I had these tests every week. You would do tests every week, and the first week, I think I scored 18% in English and I think 17% in math.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was baptism by fire.
Wake-up call.
Yeah, wake up call. But that was the first week.
Yes.
And then, because I had it in me, second week I came fourth out of 125.
Ah.
Yeah.
Extremely competitive.
Yeah, and I remember we had an SST teacher called Mr. Kalyango in Nakasero, and he put me to the front of the class and said, this is how you do it. So I became a bit of a mini celeb in the school for having jumped from bottom of the class to top.
Literally in like the space of a week.
Yeah, and then I'm asked to introduce myself, and I go up to the class, you know, feeling confident now. I'm the guy, you know, and I go up and say, you know, hello everyone, my name is Mwine Benjamini. I come, and the whole class is just bursting out in laughter. And I'm thinking, why are they laughing? I didn't know. And it's only after a while that I realized that they were laughing at my accent because I just sounded like a typical villager.
But you know, we also forget that children are like the meanest creatures in
That's
the world.
very
They're the
true.
loveliest, but they're also the meanest.
That's very, very true.
Because empathy is lacking.
I don't
big
think they
time.
know what that means.
Because when you're little, it's you and your world.
But
and
also-
if it's not something that you're used to,
Yeah. But also when you're young, you don't know how to be politically correct. So everything that comes to your mind, you say. Everything you feel, you say. Even insensitive as it might be. So yeah, that then made me realize, oh, I need to learn to speak English better. Thankfully, we had gotten a TV at the time for the first time. And so I had access to the Jeffersons and Club 227. So that's primary school. I then go back to Mbara from my high school.
so that time you said like you stood for deputy head boy
Yeah,
and you lost.
yeah. Well, I didn't lose. I was disqualified.
Okay, you were disqualified.
Yeah.
So they just picked someone else.
They had to get someone else. Yeah.
Were you suspended at any point after
No.
that, or you somehow managed to?
Again, because of the way we run our system in school, the kids who usually get suspended are the daft ones.
Wow.
If you're clever enough, you should be able to get away with your mischief.
Okay.
And the way we used to get over our mischief was you buy the teachers alcohol when you go out. It works. Think about it. If the teacher knows that guy is my source of alcohol, it's like paying the mafia.
To all the children listening in,
No, but you
please
see,
disregard these statements.
no,
This
look,
might have worked for you, but
I asked you if we can be honest on this show. You said we can.
absolutely, but it doesn't mean you do as he says.
No, don't do this. It's not good for you. But it's what we used to do.
So okay.
So one of the things that I really
So you had a lot of
loved,
teachers who loved the bottle. Let's start there.
well, most of them do, to be honest.
Maybe that's how they deal with the kids every day. It's not easy.
Imagine that. No, one of the things I really appreciate about being in Mbara High School was that you had to decide what you're going to be in life, whether you're going to make it or screw up. And it was this simple because you had no rules, you had no roll call, you had no prep, you had no fence on the school.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was basically you decided I want to study or I'm not going to study. And if you go and take a look at anybody who went to Mbara High School, up at least until the time I left in, when was that, 95, 96, anybody who went to that school will either be in a top management in the private sector or in the government, or they'll be a successful business person, or they'll be a drug addict or a drunkard. There was literally no middle ground. It was on that side or that side, because you had to sort of decide what you wanted to do, and you had to learn to be street smart. You had to learn how to be very creative in how you did your things. And for that, I'm really grateful that I went to that school. It changed the way you looked at everything. O and A level. But then because we were playing so hard, in O level you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Because I remember we started revising for our end of O level exams in maybe September. So the first time, again, remember, we had none of that. I don't want to call it nonsense, but we had none of that beginning of term, end of term exams, seriously. So you just did exams at the end of the term, and it was all right. So in O level, we got away with it. We still got first grades, my entire crew. A level is a different story, because you have, no matter how clever you are, you've got to put in some effort.
Yeah.
And so things didn't work out well.
Life. It's growing up.
Yeah.
Right there.
So the first time it didn't work out very well, but because I'd always been very clever, I was disappointed with my performance, and I asked my dad if I could go and do S6 again.
Wow.
And he said, no, let's do campus, let's do private. I'm like, no, I want to go back and crack this S6 thing. Mostly because I'd done math and I failed it. I got an E in math.
Wow.
And I was unhappy because I was thinking, I can do math. So I've got to go back and crack this math thing. And I did crack the math thing. I went back and did very well.
But also you were, much younger, so.
Well, yes.
So
I guess you
it
could.
was an easier decision to make.
I guess you could say that. So so I eventually end up doing a second year in S6 at Caltech Academy in Makere. Another great experience. First time I was in a mixed school, so baptism by short skirts.
And you still did well. That's a good thing.
It was interesting. Again, now remember, a lot of my boys, my crew, had gone a year ahead of me, because most of them were at the university.
Yeah.
So I'm in Caltech in my S6, but most of my best buddies are already on campus. So I was pretty much like a campuser. I was already on campus. I would spend most of my time there, and then, So it was an interesting experience. Then, of course, get onto the university later on. And then from when I was in S3, I'd always wanted to, when the first radio stations opened in Uganda, I think I was Capital and Sanyu, Radio 1. I decided I wanted to do radio because it was fun. It got you a lot of attention with the girls. And I was thinking, I've got to do that. So my friends...
I remember you saying that back in the day.
Yeah. So
you got into radio for the ladies.
Yeah, well, most people who get into radio do that for that reason, to be honest. Ask them, they'll tell you. They might not be honest about it, but deep inside, it's what it is. And so I used to call the radio stations quite a lot.
Okay.
So Alex and Christine on Capital, Irene at Radio 1,